audio is going to be terrible, and my arrows are going to go all over the place. So, we've got a range. I bought a membership to one. It's out here in the mountains. Beautiful. And then that's my target all the way right there. So that's 100 yards right there from my bow to the target. It's super big, so it's super easy to hit, but let's see where we're at. Did that a couple of minutes ago and the wind was not that strong and I shot like fantastic. My arrows went off to the left a little bit on my last one. I don't know why, since it wasn't really all that wind, but they were like all in that blue square that you're gonna see coming up here. That's, I don't know, probably a foot by a foot, maybe less than that. But I was real pleased with how I shot the last group I did. And I was just aiming at the center, and the blue square is off to the left, but let's see what happened on this. I have no idea. Obviously, I'm going to hit the target every time, but I mean, this is a huge target, so. And I was super shaky. Give you an idea of how big this thing is. Here we go. It's about a 3-foot target because it's obviously elevated off the ground, but it's pretty big. I'm okay with that. The wind was absolutely brutal. On that last one, it was pushed my sight all the way across the target, which is one of those things with a hinge you have to like struggle against, because I'm trying to get to a point where I'm letting that sight move in whatever way it wants to around the target, and then where it breaks is just where it breaks. Because in my opinion, your form and your release is going to have a bigger effect on accuracy when it comes to like executing a shot, as opposed to actually no, I said that wrong. So you punching the trigger and doing things in your shot process that you shouldn't will have more of an effect than getting a really, really good release and shot off when the pin is not where you want it to be. Sometimes that pin floats around and then the shot breaks and the arrow doesn't really go where the pin was. It just goes like straight where you were lined up and, you know, where you wanted it to. It's weird. I don't know why that happens, but that's why I'm of the opinion that, like, it's not, you shouldn't necessarily want that pin to be exactly where you want it to be when your shot goes off. It's more about your form than about where that pin is. Because if you're doing something weird with your release or jerking the trigger, like, it's gonna push that thing off target. So that's my opinion, personal opinion, my experience with hinges and archery and stuff like that. But just trying to get a good release, and that's about as good as I'm ever gonna have at 100 yards. My thing about hinges that I figured out is, if you want really, really tight, you know, arrows touching each other at 60 yards or something like that, then I will never be as accurate as that without punching the trigger, okay? And what I mean by that is, when I was punching the trigger with an index finger or thumb release, your first few rounds will be great because you're punching the trigger the same every single time. But then you start getting tired, and then you start getting these little inconsistencies in your back wall, in your anchor and stuff like that, and that's when it starts to go all over the place, and you'll never be consistent after that. But your first few rounds that you'll shoot will be outstanding. I mean, you'll have 3 arrows touching each other in a group that big at like 60 yards, but it'll just go downhill from that. And you'll never be consistent all the way through your practicing. With a hinge, my group sizes will increase from like that at 50 yards to that at 50 yards, but it'll stay that way no matter how long I shoot during that session. It's weird, but it's one of those things where you just have to be, you have to be okay with that happening. And I've become okay with that happening, because then you can consistently know how much larger your groups are going to get as you go further and further away. And you're not going to get all those flyers and stuff like that. It's just going to be one nice consistent group, and the further you go away, it's going to expand by that amount, by the amount that you think it would, backing up in yardage. So that's my opinion for the day. Let's shoot another one at 100, because I really like shooting at 100 yards on a large target where I'm not going to destroy any arrows. So let's do it. Ooh, this thing gets heavy. Know that one went way high to the left, or not, one went way to the left, so I don't know what happened on that one. There was also one other that sounded really weird when it hit the target, so I don't know where that hit. Certain parts of the target that are more intact than the other, so when you hit it, it makes a different noise. If it's more intact, it'll make a louder noise because it has to pierce through the, I don't know, vinyl, whatever it is up there. And And then the parts that are all shot out, just kind of like slides in there with not really a whole bunch of noise. So okay, there's two of them that are relatively close together, I think. Oh wow. All right, we've got two distinct groups. We've got this group over here. They kind of went off to the left. And then we got one in the center. And I don't... I'm alright with that. That at 100 yards in the wind. It's like 109 degrees out here today. That's fine with me. I'm totally fine with that. So I was aiming right here. Also, what I would like to mention is if my video looks weird, it's because I like color grading, and I like color grading in weird ways. So it's not necessarily as realistic as probably other people would enjoy, but I kind of got inspired by the movie Dune, and it's kind of got a, I don't know, I live in the desert, so it's kind of perfect. It just kind of worked out that way. So I kind of wanted to make my environment look like the Dune environment. It doesn't look exactly like it. The more like I compare the two, it doesn't look exactly like it, but I end up remaking the color grade into a LUT, like to get it closer and closer. Also, it really depends on what kind of screen I'm looking at. So there's that. But color grading's fun. I've been creating LUTs over the last like year and a half. That just kind of like I create them and then test them in videos and stuff like that. But I really like the LUT that I'm doing right now that I made all on my own. It kind of looks weird. My lips kind of look desaturated in the videos, but and then of course when I was talking about the B3 tangent release, it kind of had like a copper color instead of a brass color. It does look like brass. It's got that gold finish on it, but it still looks brown right now because I've just sweated on it so much, and it's, you know, it looks like that. So I'll pause the color grade right there so you can see it, but yeah, I just like doing that. And then like obviously if you shoot an S-Log3 from Sony, it's a really super flat profile, and it's got a ton of dynamic range and stuff like that, so you can play around with it a lot. So matching the drone footage to that has been interesting. I think I've got it relatively similar, but it's just interesting to try to match those two up because there's no flat profile on my drone, so it just kind of has a bunch of stuff baked in. But it's kind of fun to try to match those two, and I think I've gotten better and better at it. But one update on this B3 tangent, which I really want them to come out in a white or gray finish in aluminum. This thumb peg is pretty good. I like it. But one thing is when I'm back in my anchor, ready to fire, I kind of put my thumb down here and kind of relax these two fingers so that I'm just kind of like pulling. I don't keep my hands like that or like try to do that. I just kind of like relax them, and this is where my thumb ends up being. And when it goes off, it hits my knuckle, and it's just been tearing my knuckle up. I had a big, this is definitely going to get to be a pretty large callus on my thumb, so it is what it is. It doesn't hurt anymore. I think that's because of the callus, but just be aware of that when you're working with hinges and stuff like that. Is if you hold it like that, this thing's gonna chew up your knuckle, but you'll get used to it eventually. It did bleed. It did bleed on me in an airport in Phoenix, but it's whatever. That's a small gripe that doesn't really affect me anymore because I've got a giant callus on there now. So also, you can change this thumb peg out to whatever you want it to be. So if you don't like it, that's your fault. All right, I think I've ranted enough for the day. It's been a beautiful, gorgeous day out here in the mountains, and I'll see you next time.